Hey, not to freak you out or anything, but every second, your body creates 25 million new cells. I'll do the math for you. That means that in about 15 seconds, you'll have produced more cells than there are people in the United States. Think about that next time you feel you haven't been productive enough. It may account for only 2% of our body mass, but our brains actually take up 20% of our blood supply and oxygen. Our brains can also produce enough energy to supply a light bulb. That is, when we're awake. Ever thought about what the largest human organ is? It's your skin, and is thickest on the palms of your hands and soles of your feet. I know, I hate dusting too, but you are particularly responsible for that layer of fluff on your TV screen, you know. Every human being sheds about 600,000 particles of skin every hour, and most of the dust around your house is actually composed of that. So yes, we're all rather flaky. These days, it's considered more of a beauty mark, but the reason why people are born with a Cupid's bow is actually quite intriguing. As our features start to develop before we're even born, it appears that the Cupid's bow is actually the place where our face, zips up. The right side of the face and the left side of the face, that is. While in humans, it may not be that obvious. If you look at your dog's nose, you'll see it has a straight vertical line just under the nostrils. That's right, dogs have this zip too. Did you know you were born with more bones than you have today? At birth, we have somewhere around 300 bones, but as we age, some of them fuse together. That's why in adulthood, we end up having about 200 bones. Although your teeth are technically part of your skeletal system, they're not actually bones. They do look sort of similar and do share some characteristics, like being the hardest element in your body. Why the misconception though? Well, it's mostly because both teeth and bones contain calcium. To be a bit more specific, about 99% of the body's calcium is in your bones and teeth. The remaining calcium is in your bloodstream. So what makes them different, you might ask? It's in how the bones and teeth heal and how you should take care of them. While bones can repair and heal themselves, your teeth aren't able to do that. That's why we have dentists. We don't only have unique fingerprints, our tongues are one of a kind as well. Research has shown that those approximately 10,000 taste buds on our tongues are laid out in a unique pattern, specific for each one of us. About 80% of what you believe is taste is actually smell. The combination of taste and smell that we perceive is what we come to know as flavor. It's probably because our sense of smell is around 10,000 times stronger than our sense of taste. So, the next time you're tuning in your favorite song, try to pay some attention to your heartbeat. Do you hear that? Yep, that's right. While listening to some music, your heartbeat will sync with the rhythm of the song. And speaking of that healthy ticker of yours, just in case you're wondering, it beats on average about 75 times per minute. This means that in any given year, a human heart can pump enough blood to fill an Olympic-sized pool. What's even more fascinating is that if you were to connect all your blood vessels end to end, you'd be able to circle the Earth 4 times. But that would really hurt, so don't try that. We are the only species on this planet to have a chin. There's still some debate around this subject in the scientific community, but one of the reasons seems to be to make our jaws stronger. As humans have continued to evolve, their teeth and the muscles in their jaws got smaller and smaller, so they needed something to help with increased jaw resistance. That transparent part of your eye is called the cornea, and it helps the light go through. It's also the only part of your body that isn't connected to any blood supply. Why? Because it's especially designed to get its oxygen straight from the surrounding atmosphere. If you took out all the fat found in a healthy human body, it would be enough to make 7 bars of soap. We also produce enough saliva in our lifetimes to fill 2 swimming pools. Great expectorations. Ever wondered how much we actually eat during our whole lifetimes? I'll spare you the math. An average-sized person eats nearly 66,000 pounds of food throughout the whole course of their lifetime. How much is that for scale? About 6 elephants. And that ain't peanuts. Each of us carries around 4 pounds of bacteria on average at any given time in our bodies. But hey, don't go running to the doctor just yet. Most of that bacteria is actually good and have specific functions in the human body, like digestion and our immune systems. If you want to have an accurate depiction of your height, Make sure you measure yourself in the morning. That's because you're about 0.4 inches taller right when you wake up. Trust me, it isn't magic. It's merely because, throughout the day, the soft cartilage between your spinal bones gets squashed down and compressed, making you seem shorter by the time you go to bed. We know that we have some sort of energy moving around our bodies, so we actually do emit a tiny amount of light. It's too weak for our own eyes to see, though, but if you think about it, you're actually glowing as we speak. The humorist and author Mark Twain once said, "Man is the only animal that blushes, or needs to." How true. But not all humans can blush, and those that do blush to different degrees. Is there some sort of evolutionary reason for why we blush? It seems so. Blushing is a way for us to communicate without using any words, just like dogs wag their tails when they're happy or excited. So, basically, blushing can be translated to "I'm embarrassed," similar to how we shiver when we're cold. If the human eye was a camera, it would have about 576 megapixels. Our vision of the world changes throughout our lives. As soon as we're born, we see the world upside down for a bit. Our brain is programmed to show the inverted image formed on our retina by the convex eye lens. But that doesn't kick in immediately after birth. Hey, I'm sure you enjoy that weekly cardio and weightlifting, but the strongest muscle in the human body is definitely not the one you've been working on. It's actually in your jaws. Your jaws are designed similarly to a nutcracker. Why? So you can get powerful bites with as little energy as possible. The fastest muscle is located in your eyes. That's probably how we came up with the expression "in the blink of an eye" for when something happens really quickly. Did you know that your nose comes with a built-in reset feature? It happens when you sneeze. Sneezing is basically your nose's way of getting rid of all the bad particles it has inhaled up to a certain point. If you think that's bad, it's not. Did you also think your pinky finger is something weak and pretty much useless? Well, it actually packs up to 50% of the strength in your hand. We still haven't figured out precisely why people yawn. Now, we aren't the only creatures to do it. Baboons, guinea pigs, and the Siamese fighting fish yawn to warn other animals to stay away. Penguins seem to yawn during courtship rituals, and snakes yawn at times after a good meal. Boy, there's a happy snake. Some theories suggest it helps us get more oxygen in, while others indicate that it helps with regulating our body temperatures. Either way, we still don't know for sure. Our ears and noses are the only organs that continue to grow throughout our lifetimes. Our eyes stay more or less the same size as we grow up. By the time we're 3 months old, our corneas should technically reach their full size.
Hey guys! So, I just learned about this cool new method to really get the most out of your life and to be your own boss. It's called, Sorry guys, just a second. Oh wow! Looks like my new video just went viral. Alright, what was I saying? Oh yeah, right. So there's this new cool method to get the most out of your life. What? Huh. Looks like a new episode of my favorite show just came out. Might have to cancel my 5 o'clock workout just to watch it. Okay, sorry everyone. Now seriously, let me tell you about this cool new dopamine detox method. California psychiatrist Dr. Cameron Seppa is the inventor of this idea. Another name for it is dopamine fasting. According to Dr. Seppa himself, it's an evidence-based technique to manage addictive behaviors. The idea is to help stop compulsive behaviors and control the harmful stimuli that cause them. They can differ from person to person, social media, junk food, online shopping. Everyone's got a vice. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those on their own. Doing all those things is perfectly normal, as long as you don't let them take over your life. Dr. Seppa recommends dopamine detox only to those who feel that these habits negatively affect their personal life, health, or career. And you should only try it if other methods haven't worked out. So I keep saying dopamine, but what actually is it? It's a chemical in the brain associated with pleasure, reward, and motivation. For example, when you eat chocolate, your brain releases dopamine, so you feel happy and crave more and more, and more. It's the same with social media. You get your first 1,000 likes, you feel loved and appreciated, and start craving more and more of that attention. The brain remembers what triggered those positive emotions and makes you turn the activities into a habit. Over time, your brain learns to release dopamine even before you give it what it loves. You can arrive at the shopping mall and actually feel good and motivated before you actually start shopping. And that is how you get hooked to it, the anticipation of the reward. But hey, to be fair, dopamine isn't bad. It's also the reason why you develop healthy habits, like going to the gym, reading good books, or learning foreign languages. So it has more to do with motivation than simple pleasure. The idea behind dopamine detox is to exclude all of the unhealthy habits from your life altogether, all at once. You're supposed to learn to resist and live through your uncomfortable feelings like boredom or loneliness, instead of reaching out for a fast solution like scrolling through your phone or putting on some loud music in your headphones. Okay, so I do feel like there are some things that distract me and slow me down, like Netflix and social media. I guess I could be a lot more productive if I gave those up, at least for a week. Let's see how it goes. So, on the first day of my dopamine detox, I woke up and my hand automatically reached for my phone, but thankfully, I caught myself in the act and left the phone alone, because I'm detoxing, right? So instead, I immediately got up, took a shower, and ate breakfast. And this time I was careful about what I was eating for breakfast. I even tried out a new omelet recipe that I saw on Instagram long ago. On my way to work, I listened to an audiobook instead of music. I actually enjoyed that quite a lot. I also enjoyed working with no distractions for once. Let's be honest, who doesn't like to get their mind off of things at the office every now and then? You think you're just gonna scroll for 5 minutes, and before you know it, it's 1 hour later and you've got nothing done. So this time, I forced myself to be super productive. I think my boss will really appreciate this dopamine detox idea. After returning home, my first thought was to check out the new episode of my favorite show, but I decided against it, and thus ended up with some unexpected free time. So I went for a run without my phone. Did you know the sunset is actually orange and purple? What a beautiful view. I still had time before bed, so imagine this, I actually took a physical book off the shelf. It smelled so good. I read it for a little while, and then fell asleep. On the second day of my detox, I woke up feeling refreshed. I guess it's because I didn't fall asleep with my phone in my hands after 2 hours of scrolling as I normally do. My brain was craving some dopamine and I was about to reward it with some chocolate, but then I realized that would be cheating. So I put the chocolate bar back into the fridge. Painful, I know. It was one of my days off, so I had to try a little harder than the previous day to spend the time. So I did my research. Yeah, I actually Googled what to do instead of social media. And I found a lot of things to choose from. Bike rides, hikes, yoga, meditation, kayaking, geocaching, exploring your own neighborhood, spending time with your friends or your pet, swimming, fishing, stargazing, camping, or taking a tour of your own city. Wow. It's amazing how none of those activities have ever crossed my mind before. So I decided to do a little exploring in my own neighborhood. Now I know that there's a lovely coffee shop in my area and a green market that sells some excellent tomatoes. I decided to spend day 3 with my friends. Of course, it was not easy getting them all together because not everyone was dopamine detoxing like me, but we still had a pretty good time. At one point, I mentioned my detox experiment, and they all admitted to each having their own habits that they wanted to get rid of. One of them said they couldn't survive a minute without some music playing on their headphones. Another said that they live on junk food, which had become a real problem. So I guess soon I'll be adding a few more to my detox team. The following day of the experiment was a Monday, so I had to go back to work. Believe it or not, I was actually enthusiastic about it. That weekend spent outside and talking to the people that I love charged up my batteries. Now, I have been honestly following the detox routine, I promise. So I haven't been keeping up on my social networks. And I gotta tell you, it felt so liberating. I did feel a little bit uneasy when I realized that I'd be missing the new episodes of the show that I like so much. But then I discovered that real life can be just as entertaining, if not more. Day 5 and 6 of my experiment went pretty well too. I no longer felt the urge to scroll through everyone's updates right in before bed. Of course, I still use the internet at work, so I wasn't completely off the grid. Evening walks had become part of my daily routine, and I do intend to keep going on them after the detox as well. Well, today is the final day of my experiment. And I gotta say, living without social media actually turned out easier than I thought. But I guess it can be different for different people. A friend of mine who's tried it too said that she felt lonely and scared when she went off the grid. That makes sense. Humans are social beings, and for many of us, limited social stimulation is a big red flag for the nervous system. So I guess the safest you can go is not to cut off dopamine altogether for a whole week and then jump right back in, but instead to cut it off in smaller intervals, like let's say a couple hours every day or one day out of the weekend. And since we now know dopamine can be good sometimes, and you actually do need it in your system, there is one magical detox method that works all the time. It's called a vacation. I don't know about you, but I'm going to take a look at some travel plans soon. As always, the key is moderation. Take care of yourselves.